Good evening. My name is Merritt, and I want to start by talking about one of summer's real sweet experiences. We've got hot weather right around the corner. So, cutting into a fresh, cold, juicy watermelon on a hot day. It's one of life's incredible moments, right? Until it's not. How many of you have experienced the disappointment of cutting into a watermelon only to find that it's the mealy kind? What a disappointment, right? Well, I only paid a few dollars for this watermelon, so perhaps my disappointment would be quite small. But what if you paid a lot more money for this watermelon? What if you paid $30 for it? How would you feel? What if you paid $80, an $80 watermelon? Well, that's the situation that a dear friend and colleague of mine faced when he had a watermelon just like this shipped to a northern community in the Northwest Territories by air. With all that transportation, the chances of this watermelon being mealy are quite high. So high cost, low quality. You know, this might be an extreme example, but it is representative of the kinds of prices that northerners face. It costs a lot of money to ship perishable items to remote regions of the north. Northern communities face some of the highest levels of food insecurity and hunger in all of our country, and this is faced or felt disproportionately by Indigenous households. And truly, a lot of Canada is extremely remote. So I'm showing you here communities in gray that are connected by the road system. But communities marked by red or blue dots depend on air transportation for at least part of the year. You might expect that it's these far north communities, these $80 watermelon communities that face the highest levels of food insecurity. But actually the data show the exact opposite situation. And that's because of country food. Food that can be harvested, food that can be hunted, and food that can be shared. Food like this, or this, or this. But also food like this. So small-scale agriculture has long been a part of many communities in the Northwest Territories. Until now, agriculture has been limited to small, warm microsites, such as valley bottoms with south-facing aspects or lake shores. But with climate change, these microsites are expanding. So how is this going to impact crops? Well, this is the results of a modeling study conducted right here at the University of Guelph. The red and blue areas predict where crop productivity, commercial crops, are expected to expand into new areas as a result of climate change. And just note that a lot of this emerging agricultural land is focused in the north. So we have a problem. We need to grow more food in the north. But now we have a potential growing solution. And now is the time to prepare for this emerging issue. Now is the time to plan. So we are working with a number of communities across the Northwest Territories to help them gain the knowledge and the tools they need to grow more food on their warming soils. We need only to look to our own Holland Marsh to understand how fertile muck soils can be once they're drained. But we have a phrase in the northern climate community: this is not Vegas. What happens in the north will not stay in the north. And this is because for millennia, northern ecosystems have served as a global refrigerator, cooling the Earth's climate as they take carbon out of the atmosphere and store that carbon in biomass. Today, northern soils store more than twice as much carbon as is contained in the entire atmosphere. This is simply a tremendous amount of carbon. So we need to do whatever we can to keep that carbon in the ground, to prevent it from being re-released to the atmosphere. Any agricultural development in the north, any best management practices need to be carbon and climate smart. They need to be carbon efficient. And if we can achieve that goal, we will have a win-win, not only in terms of growing food, but also in terms of protecting our atmosphere and our climate. There's an Inuk term, sila. It's often directly translated to mean, in English, to mean weather or climate, but it's actually a much more nuanced word. It refers to the notion that we are all connected to one another through our shared environment. And I would argue that sila is how everyone in this room today is connected to the north. Our emissions, our role in anthropogenic climate change is causing very rapid transformation of northern ecosystems through some of the most dramatic and fast warming compared to anywhere else on this planet. But in turn, northern ecosystems have been regulating our climate for millennia. In fact, have regulated the climate that we have experienced throughout our entire society, allowing our society to flourish. Sila. We are all connected to one another, but we are also connected to the north through our shared atmosphere. Thank you.